Babe, I thought we agreed to dress nice.
This is a nice sweater. Would it be fancier if it was a swan instead of a goose?
So let's talk about influencing difficult people.
Fuck you. The power of influence is one of my favorite topics. I remember my first big promotion from being, a manager of others and do what I say because I'm an authority and you have to do it.
Yeah.
When I got promoted, influence became the core part of my job when I had no direct reports. And my whole job was getting people to think differently.
Yeah. Why influence difficult people instead of forcing them or just coercing them?
So influence is inspiring power of thought, not forcing people to obey something.
Different strokes for different folks. So how do we approach that? Do we figure out, okay, is it because they have ego, or is it because they don't trust you or respect you yet and you haven't brought them in some way?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is if someone is perceived as difficult or resistant, it's just because you haven't built trust with them yet.
Yeah, maybe they're an asshole and they don't deserve trust, but...
Could very well be, but if it is your job, your duty, your prerogative to influence them, you have to build trust, and that comes through letting them know that you're here to help them or support them in some way.
Yeah.
And I've personally had those conversations, as I'm sure you have too, being in law enforcement, where someone's resistant or difficult.
Yeah, but that's usually like, stop resisting, I'm giving them instructions.
Well, I guess resisting means something different.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry, that was before, but...
Yeah, I guess it kind of means something different. And
maybe that's for the outtakes.
And he didn't punch people when he was a cop.
No, not,
It's emotional. Stop resisting.
Exactly right. Like my emotional baton, and I'm gonna hit. So
the point I'm making is, when you had to reason with people, you say, "Listen, man, I'm trying to help you here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to hear you out. What I'm saying is going to help you." So yours is a bigger example of that versus mine. Mine is more, there's an initiative. We need to get them influenced to be bought into.
Yeah.
And you have maybe an hour to be able to do that.
Yeah.
To build trust, make a connection, tell them why what you're saying is beneficial to them in some sort of way.
Yeah.
So again, it's not, you need to buy into this because I'm telling you to, because you have to, you don't have a choice. But instead of saying you're not doing this, you should be doing this, influence looks like, imagine if you were doing this, and here are all the benefits, and here's why it's right for you, and how can I help you get there? Like, that's influence is always positive, or correction, should be positive.
Be, right?
Yeah.
Because you can be a fucking psychopath and then influence people in a really, really bad way.
Yeah.
But, well, anyway, so you talked about being an advocate, right? Gaining respect that way, and having that ability to break through to them or to influence them, change the direction, change their mind, right? So for me, I know we both have dealt with a lot of different people with ego. Mine has been different because of what I do now. I'm not in charge of anybody. I'm not over anybody. I have no authority. So I have to look at it from a different approach because I need to have a round impact. So, for that, it's like, all right, well, they're not going to trust me. They don't want to hear anything else. But if I appeal to their ego, maybe they like feeling smart, right? They're an achiever at their job. They have a high IQ, but let's say maybe their EQ isn't great, okay? Well, one way I know is that person likes to feel empowered somehow. And how is that? They take pleasure or they take power from their genius. So appeal to that genius. Probably thought of it already because you're always thinking, but what do you think about trying this approach? Do you feel like this would be, the smart thing to do or the better thing to do?
Yeah.
And appeal to them that way, because what you're doing is you're making them feel better about themselves and they're associating that with you. So they're going to be more open to the next things that you have to say because you've massaged that ego and it's like a drug to them. They want more of that. They're going to stick around.
Yeah.
They're going to be more open to you. They're going to want to hear what you have to say because they think they're going to get something out of it.
So let me summarize that, because I think you said like two really key things in there, which is find out what their strengths or their superpowers are and leverage that into whatever it is you're trying to influence them on, but make it a collaboration. So influence is essentially making it like their idea.
Yeah.
It's inception. You're planting.
I'm fucking Leo.
Are you Leo though? Well, it's planting the idea, and so it's not manipulation necessarily, it's inspiration.
See, it's not manipulation or it's not selfish if it doesn't hurt someone.
And in this case, it's helping them.
Yeah.
Because if your influence is intentional to help them do something, or it's a positive,
to be kinder to me or to make my life better, there's no ulterior motive with that. It's like, be nicer or trust me because I'm gonna steer you in the right direction. I am here to help. Stop thinking you know more than me.
Yeah, and it's important to be sincere about identifying their strengths and leveraging that, because you're not trying to be a kiss ass. You're just trying to...
Not at all. It's just like, I feel like they're a good person. They just don't necessarily grasp some of these concepts because everybody gets a random personality. You don't know exactly what you're gonna get. You have some good parts to you, you have some bad parts to you. I value the other things that you do aside from this trait about your personality, and it makes it really, really tough to be around you sometimes. So I'm gonna pull back. So I'm just trying to make my life better so I can be in theirs more, or we can have that, those opportunities to have greater level of thing. Because I would think that I could probably learn a lot from this person, and that's why let me not shy away from people like that if I have them in my life.
So we talked about professional influence, and then you also touched on influence in your personal relationships as well. And you mentioned a lot about difficult people. So how do you know if you're interacting with someone who might be difficult or resistant to your influence, or just you in general?
I mean, we always heard, communication is only 7% verbal, but that shit is legitimate. That is actually real, because you can sit there in real time, have a conversation with somebody or try and impact them in some way, and you can know right then at that moment, are they gonna do it? Are they not? Are they actually hearing you? Are they open to it? I mean, if somebody's standing there talking to you and you can visually observe that they pivot from focused on you to looking at other things, being distracted, stepping back away, changing the deflection of the voice, like you can tell immediately where their head's at. It's a crazy tool that you can use where you can have a whole nother conversation going on in that moment than what is actually being said. You're analyzing all of it.
And that's the power of observation too. Yeah. And I agree with that. Think about a situation personally, but also
I know you have
professionally. I had a new leader that I was introducing to the team. One of the other team members who I'd worked with for so long was meeting this new leader. When they talked, she wasn't making eye contact. She was changing the subject or looking down or only directing her conversation to me. A typical individual, I might think like, oh, I've built trust with this person. This is great. But to me, I'm trying to foster a relationship with the new leader. And so afterwards, I told the leader, I don't know if you picked up on it. She wasn't looking at you anytime you spoke. She was directing her questions to me, not you. Yeah. And there was so much confidence from this leader in all the things they wanted to do differently and all the things they wanted to implement, and all great intentions. However, they weren't picking up on this person's body language to where I said, okay, you got to work on building trust with them. Yeah. Clearly they're not bought in yet. Slow down and make the connection.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned intention, and that reminds me a lot of what we've been talking about between that and living the golden rule, right? You told me kind of a funny story about something that happened recently with you and the old Betty down the road.
Oh, yeah. So, in such a small example.
Don't let them change you. That's a huge example. That's a major lesson. So, take us through the story.
So, I had a thought while I was running around the neighborhood, which, let's be honest, I was walking around the neighborhood, and there was several neighbors that I always wave.
Yeah.
I always wave and they waved back, and there was it was a weird day. There was a weird day where I waved to a neighbor in a car and she just stared at me and didn't wave back, and then I waved to a guy and he didn't wave back, and I'm like, okay, why are people not being friendly? And then there was a neighbor.
People are dicks today.
Yeah, why are people such jerks today? Do I have a grease stain on my shirt? What's going on? I know I look rough when I'm going for a run, but no reason not to wave back. And then there was a neighbor walking her crazy little dog, and I slowed down to say hi and wave.
Okay, nobody leashes dogs in Tennessee for whatever reason.
It's ridiculous.
That could be a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
But what the hell? Why is no dog on a leash?
Yeah, every dog is just like feral, running around.
Running around, biting neighbors' dogs.
Like, what the hell?
Shitting in people's front yard.
It's been very traumatic that people just let their dogs run
5
around.
5 inches from my sidewalk,
Yeah.
dog turd that I knew was not ours, was not our dog.
Because you did the sniff lick
Oh,
test.
yeah.
Okay.
This, you know, like you gotta...
But that's a topic for another day, another beverage. But walking this dog, and I stopped and waved and said hi, and she huffed and was so annoyed because she was trying to control her dog, didn't look at me, didn't wave back, so I just kept going. And I had a thought. I said, people are really being jerks today. I'm just gonna stop waving.
Yeah.
And then I reflected. I said, that's such a shitty approach to say, I'm gonna stop being friendly, which is who I am. Because people aren't reciprocating it, and it spiraled this thought process of, if we only do nice or kind things or gestures because we expect something in return, we're not doing it for the right reasons. To the point where I will be vulnerable and say that I said, my feelings are so hurt that I'm still gonna wave at everybody, but I'm just gonna look down, so I'm not looking at their response, whether they wave back or not. Until I can be okay with people might not wave back. And again, such a small example, but the bigger message is be who you are. If who you are is a good person who wants to do nice things, who wants to be kind to other people, but if you expect something in return and you change who you are because you don't get reciprocation, you're not doing it for the right reasons.
I mean, what is it? It's basically reward versus punishment.
Yeah, it's quid pro quo.
Yeah.
Like you're doing something to get something in return, even though it is just a gesture or a kindness.
Yeah.
But I think we've known people that will only do something that is nice if they're going to get something in return, or they can use it against you later, or they can...
What you guys know.
Yeah, and again, this is not about anybody in particular. This is about people in general and life experiences.
Everybody has at least a handful of these people. If they can't think of anybody, you're the people.
If you keep smelling fish, you look around, you don't see a fish.
You're the fish.
You're the fish. If you are doing it to throw it in someone's face later, use it as leverage, like, you're not doing it for the right reasons. You probably have to evaluate what is your standard for kindness in general.
So these people tell themselves that they're good people, but they throw that shit in your face to weaponize the act down the road. What's their intention then? Does intention matter?
I personally don't think intention does matter. Either you hurt someone or you don't hurt someone. And I think bringing intention into it, an example saying, well, I didn't mean to do that, or that wasn't my intention to hurt you, I think that just complicates things.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. We had an interaction, a conversation, I should say, with someone in our lives. And
were we sober?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So, so it's a real conversation.
It's a real conversation.
Yeah, we're not just giggling and having a good
but
time.
you know, they asked a question that ended up being a little bit offensive. And in having that conversation, they said, well, anybody who knows me should know that my intentions are always good.
Yeah.
I think that ends up being a little bit of running away from accountability when we say things like that, especially if it's blanketed. Like, everything I do is with good intent.
Did they have ill intent?
Never. It's a good person, you know, who always has really positive intent with everything they say and everything they do.
So just kind of oblivious to the way it came out, like didn't register.
But it made us think about, where does intention play a part in those interactions? Because then it makes us question how we feel about the interaction. If they say, oh, well, I didn't mean it, my intention was good, then we say, well, I probably shouldn't have, maybe I'm too sensitive.
Did I overreact?
Should I overreact? Should I have taken offense to that because their intention was good? I think it just has to be as clear as either you hurt someone, I'm accountable, I'm sorry, I hurt you, or you didn't. Most of the time you don't mean to. Most people don't walk around saying, who am I gonna offend or hurt today? I'm sure there are people that do, the internet exists. But in general, people that are in your life that you love are not going to intend to offend or hurt you. But I think when we start bringing in intention into things, that's when it makes it complicated, and they may not even learn a lesson from what they did because they're hiding behind that.
So I feel like it comes down then to what the impact is, right? And just because you didn't intend for that doesn't mean that you're absolved from the impact that you had on somebody.
I agree. It's like the egg graph that we've seen of, I didn't mean to break the egg, it wasn't my fault the egg broke, versus accountability is just, I broke the egg.
It's like, you either didn't or you did.
Doesn't matter if you intended to or not. And I had a way core memory unlocked thinking about, I was in some sort of daycare or something like that. I couldn't have been more than like 4 or 5 years old. And I remember there was babies on one side of it, and then there was the much younger kids. And I was brought over onto the side to help with the babies. I don't remember why.
Because free slave labor.
Like, I guess so.
Child labor.
I demonstrated some leadership skills. But when you hear the story, they didn't pay off. And so I remember there was a baby who was trying to climb up on this little toy car to look out the window. And I was like, well, let me help the baby, and push the little car by the window. It climbed up on the car and it fell off. And I remember Was
it like cats though, where they always land on their feet?
No.
Oh, okay.
They land in the worst possible ways, usually just on their head.
Babies land like shitty rag dolls with leather.
No, it's not graceful. But the teacher came over and grabbed me by the arm and said, you hurt the baby, you need to go to timeout. And being that young, I just remember feeling so confused because in my mind, I said I was trying to help by doing something. But it goes back to, I was a child rationalizing to myself that my intention was good. I just lacked any logic what the outcome was going to be.
God, that's freaking wild that is etched into your brain after all these years.
But you had something similar happen when you were younger, right?
So we lived in California. I was like maybe 7 years old. And I remember it was after my birthday. I got this badass bike. I don't know why I still remember all like it was called the Warthog. It had like fucking plastic body kits on it for aero and shit. It just looked badass. It had this really, really cool gray squirt bottle. I remember every single detail about that bike. Every single detail. It was dusk, the sun was setting, it was the fucking golden hour. All of that is in my brain for whatever reason, okay?
I get it.
So I digress. So I had my badass bike. I'm riding in the neighborhood, and up ahead I see the neighbor's kids, and they're going for a walk. The 4-year-old's in like that little, what was that? Was it the red flyer or the red what was the
radio flyer.
The radio flyer wagon. God, that shit was dope. Did you ever have one of those?
Yes, we did.
You did?
Yeah.
Damn, I thought you were poor.
We were. We had like the Walmart brand.
Oh shit, okay. I might have had that then, okay. The kid's in the radio flyer, super badass, and the older brother's pulling him. So I see him up ahead, I'm like, oh cool, let me show my bike. You know, I just got this badass bike. Anyway, in my head I'm like, I love my bike, I think I shit my pants, let's go see the kids. That's what really happened. So I'm coming up to him, I'm looking down, checking out my awesome bike, and bump into the back of that wagon, right? Little baby standing up, baby goes doop, and rolls over, as heavy-headed babies do.
Yeah, they land head first.
So luckily he stayed in the wagon, like I didn't give this kid a fucking traumatic brain injury or something like that, right? So he falls in the wagon, starts crying, that was it. That was the extent of his injuries that day. As soon as that happens, kid goes down, and then the older brother goes, Matt, what the hell are you doing? Like, just like Keanu Reeves, like Bill and Ted, fucking just like that. This is California. They all talk like that.
Yeah.
I freak out. I don't piss my pants. Not at least this time, so that's cool. So I freak out, turn around, run right back into the garage, start crying, sobbing uncontrollably while sitting next to my bike because I was so traumatized. I was so sad that I almost hurt that kid. And then boom, like a dog getting nipped on the neck right away by the mom, like I was held accountable. He made me feel like I did something really, really wrong when that happened.
And those are really deep memories from when we were young enough that we probably shouldn't remember those things, but I think it has something to do with we kind of came online with the fact that we are capable of hurting other people.
Yeah.
But we felt such guilt
Yeah.
in doing it. And we know that there's people out there that don't feel guilt. Think about it, like the consequence was someone else making a comment, but we weren't deeply punished for those things. It was a self-guilt and learning that we have the capability to do that to another person.
So we talked a lot about moments of childhood unintended consequences, right? We were held accountable and it stuck with us pretty hard. So how many of you know these people? Cheaters, reckless decision makers, whether it be their personal or professional life, and they probably have a childlike lack of accountability.
What is happening?
Say it again. Do you want to buff up a little bit? You got.
I'm good. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
That's Persian silk on my fucking.
You got this at Ross.
that was the warehouse, men's warehouse. And why do panties give you so much confidence?
Which of my panties are you wearing?